trying to get crazy when they sing. Don't you know I'm loco?
Originally, Chucho, my character, I know he he walks and has like hands and stuff, but originally he was like a wolf and he was on all fours and he's evolved to be able to like walk and stuff. So when I made him, I definitely wasn't thinking that. I feel like maybe he'd be more like that, but it wasn't a positive thing at all.
What's happening, everybody? This is Bobby Ruiz, aka Bobby Tribal, and believe it or not, finally, once again,
it's the Lower Left Podcast. Back at it,
and Johnny's back.
Yeah, I'm back.
Yeah,
it's been a long time.
Yeah,
a little rusty. So if I mess up, I'll just edit it out. It's okay.
Yeah, but yeah, it's finally summertime's here, and we've been busy.
Sweating.
Yeah, especially Johnny the sweater. So yeah, it's been cool. It's been busy. We've got a lot of really cool, exciting things happening now, especially this weekend. I don't know when this podcast is actually going to drop, but shout out to the homies at the Vatican. The Vatican grand opening is tomorrow night. The Hollywood Vatican with Freddie Negrete, Franco Vescovi, and all the Vatican crew and the family up there. And then Friday night's kind of a big deal too with the, again, family. Esteban Oriol and David DeBaca, aka the Teen Angel show at Beyond the Streets, who all three of those people we've had on this podcast, David DeBaca, Esteban, and Roger Gassman. So yeah, it should be cool. And then it's gonna be 4th of July.
Yeah, well, yeah.
Next week, right? It's next week. That's crazy. But today I've tried to get her in here before.
And what happened?
It's just, she's busy. She's not like, she doesn't sit still. Like you can look at her work and how busy she stays like on her social media. And she's in demand. Like there's people that stay busy. This girl stays hella busy, and she's local. And if you're from anywhere in Southern California, but I don't know, we'll find out where else she's done work, but you've seen her work, her work. And primarily there's a character that we're going to get into that jumps out. Like you see this character all over the place. And I knew the character and her work before I'd met her. She was also involved with Street Legacy, but and I think that was the first time I met her. But Mr. B Baby, aka Michelle, and welcome.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, we're happy to have you here. So, I guess my first question is the name, right? Because the name Mr. in front of, like, how did that happen?
I think that's what everybody's like very curious about at first.
So we'll get that out of the way, like right out the gate.
So my initials, Michelle Ruby.
There it is.
And then it stands for Brown Baby, because all of my work, I mean, to give you like the realty, Brown was my married name. I'm not married anymore, but I kept it because my work was like all about Latino culture. So I just thought it made sense and I just ran with it. So it's been like 10 years.
So people think Mr. is like Mr. Like Mr., but it's actually your initials.
Well, so when I first started painting, that's what I wanted people to think. I was like, oh, I'm going to get more respect if I'm a man. So that's kind of, or like people think I am when they look at my work. So that's kind of why I ran with it at first. And it's just kind of like been something that has stuck. I don't really think that anymore. I don't think that's the case, but it is what it is.
Definitely, I think definitely not. Like, I think just judging from the amount of work that you do and how busy you stay, I think you may be at an advantage.
I think so too. I think I was born at the right perfect moment, and I'm like being a Latina woman has really helped me out in a lot of ways. That before it definitely wouldn't have. But
yeah, I think that's so. We're gonna get back to that. I just wanted to ask that question.
So originally, was it MR B Baby or was it always Mr.?
It was just an Instagram name, and then everybody just started calling me it, and I just was like, all right, cool.
Okay, cool.
And the B is for Brown.
Mm-hmm.
All right, there it is.
You ever mess with people when they're expecting Mr. B Baby and then you're there and they're like, where's he at?
Well, I think for like most people know it's a girl because I always put myself out there. But there's definitely been people that meet me. They're like, oh, I thought Mr. B Baby was a guy. I didn't expect it to be you, you know? But
and she goes big, dog.
I know.
Like she goes really big. Like that in itself is like, wait, you did, and you do it mostly by yourself, huh?
Yeah, I do mostly everything by myself.
Like big pieces. Like I know some of the homies that go big, and I know how much work that is and see how much work that is. And, you know, using the scissor lifts and moving ladders and paint and buckets and that.
Physical job for sure.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
And you love it still?
I love it. I mean, the older I get, like the more I feel like I want to hire more help, you know. Yeah. But I've always kind of taken pride in just kind of
and you make more money that way.
Exactly. Well, yeah, yes and no. When like you talk about taxes, then it's like you might as well just hire a little help.
but maybe finding apprentices and people like art people or students that want to help you out could probably be cool too. So we're gonna go back. So are you originally from San Diego and were you brought up here?
Yeah, I was born and raised in Chula Vista.
Okay.
And then I lived here until I was like 17.
Chula Vista High School.
I went to Bonita.
Bonita? Mm-hmm. All right.
Mm-hmm. So then I moved to the Bay Area, and I was in San Francisco for like 10 years and then to LA. And then, but currently, or for the last like 10 years, really, I've been doing the back and forth San Diego, LA thing. Mm-hmm.
So the art, where did that come from? Was that something that your family was involved in, or just something you discovered when you were in school, or something you were drawn to?
It's always been something I've been drawn to. I think like for me, my mom was an artist, but she was just like she did art whenever she found time, but she was a single mom. And so like I would always go to her jobs, like, and just sit there and wait for her to get off of work. And in that time, I would just find a way to entertain myself. And that was through art. And so I've always been into art, but then it became more of like a serious thing. Probably like in high school, I started taking it like more seriously. And I've been doing it like, well, ever since.
So how would you, were you drawn to street art, graffiti, Chicano art? What type of art were you first like really drawn into or drawn towards?
That's a good question. I've always been a big fan of Chicano art, and I've always been a really big fan of street art as well. I think that's kind of like both of my worlds colliding. Mm-hmm. As far as like the style I create, and also just, I mean, I just love art. Like even like children's books are a big inspiration to me. I always like, I mean, even now as a mom, I get to like revisit that part of my life, and it's always still so inspiring.
What children's books? What do you like? I could kind of see a little bit of what's called Where the Wild Things Are.
I've gotten that so many times.
Really?
I don't know. Yeah, I don't know how I feel about it, but it makes sense though, because that's definitely one of the books that I read when I was younger.
You don't get it? You don't see? Do you see it? Like, do you see the connection?
I definitely see it, but
it wasn't anything that was
intentional.
Or conscious.
So originally, Chucho, my character, I know he like he walks and has like hands and stuff, but originally he was like a wolf and he was on all fours, and he's evolved to be able to like walk and stuff. So when I made him, I definitely wasn't thinking that. I feel like maybe he became more like that. But it wasn't a conscious thing at all.
So Chucho, that's him. That's the guy that you've probably seen everywhere. So I'm gonna go out on a limb. All right. So you can yell at me or correct me, or I see kind of a face that is cat-like, possibly a color scheme that is kind of like a very fun piñata. Mm-hmm. He's furry. He looks friendly whenever I've seen him, but it would be a trip to see him pissed off. Does he get angry?
He gets angry, yeah.
Does
I
he?
have this whole show that was about emotions because all of my work has to do with mental health.
Uh-huh.
And so there was like a show where he had like every type of emotion, and I've played with like every type of like emotion that we could feel.
Really?
Yeah.
I'd like to see him. Does he have teeth? Like
He has
big,
teeth,
big,
yeah.
like pointy teeth?
Yeah, like, well, they're not like big, sharp, pointy teeth, but they're like rounded, sharp.
Yeah. So he's like more of a vegetarian.
I would say so. I'd like to think so.
How big? And he has a tail, right?
Mm-hmm.
So take it from like where is he? Is he cattish? Would you say that he's like more like a cat than any other sort of animal?
So when I originally created him, I was thinking I wanted to recreate like all the Aesop fables, like all the popular books I grew up with. And I was like, I want to do like my own take on these books, but in a Latino twist. And so I started with Red Riding Hood, and I was like, okay, how do I make a Latino looking wolf? And that's kind of where Chucho came from. But I mean, is he a wolf now? I wouldn't say so. And so I do see like the cat influence,
right?
For sure, but it wasn't intentional either.
How did it evolve? Like you saying he changed, kind of like was it just as you created him more, like his character started to build?
Yeah, so like when I first painted him, I really liked him, and so I just kept painting him over and over, and then eventually it got to a point where I was like, okay, well, I'm limited if I just have him on all fours. Like I need to get him to sit and be able to like have hands. And so that's kind of where his evolution started.
Cool. Even that thought process is really cool. That's really cool that you thought that out, and you're like, you know what, I'm going to get him to stand up and be maybe more interactive that way, right? How I've seen him as a doll, right? Mm-hmm. And it's a him.
It's a him.
Yeah. I've seen Chucho, right? So see him as a doll. I think I've seen a piñata, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then I've seen a life-size character that walks around.
A mascot, yeah.
And who's in? Can we talk about? No, it is. Yeah. We'll just say it's just Chucho, right?
It's just Chucho. Yeah, I mean, there's different people that wear.
Are there?
Yeah.
Do you get in there?
One person. I've definitely gotten in there.
Yeah.
I have to like try it out.
And you have that? That's like, does he do parties or?
You know what, I've thought about that? Like, I'm like, you know what? I could totally rent him out and do like parties as a side hustle, but like, it's just too much of a pain because the suit, the way it's designed is like, you can't really see. You need somebody like to be next to you. And so it might be a liability.
And it was probably expensive to create the suit.
It wasn't that expensive.
Really?
Because I did it overseas. So it was like a late night, like, let's see what this costs. And then I was like, let me just go for it right now. And I did. And this was like probably like 5 years ago. And I just made this suit.
I think he would be really cool at parties and events and stuff.
Yeah.
Especially people that know the character.
Mm-hmm.
I think it would be really cool. And then taking it into like a children's thing. Have you done a book yet?
I'm actually working on one right now with a publisher that hit me up. So that's like my main goal. That was my goal in creating him, and that's like where I want to take it. I want to create like a series of books.
Does he have friends?
He has friends. He has Chaco, Maria, and then he has like this piñata friend who still doesn't have a name after all these years. But there's a whole world.
What type of? I always see these little kids. They look like little kids. They look like little Mexican or little
Maria.
Yeah, but there's several could be on one piece, right? Yeah. They're almost like what did you like? Not like munchkins or like what? Right?
They're inspired by the Mexican rag dolls, the lay dolls. Yeah. That's what they are. But like my own version of them. Mm-hmm. But it's like I always put Chucho and the Marias like in this scene where they are like much smaller than him, and they always like attack him and get his candy, kind of like a girl power thing. That like even though he's so big, they still get over on him.
But there's a bunch of them.
Yeah.
So that's not fair.
Yeah.
Right? You see them like they're hanging out on the actual. I think the last one I looked at, he was kind of laying down and they were kind of all over him. Mm-hmm. And so who are his friends? Are those his friends?
They can be in certain situations. I put him in a bunch of different situations that sometimes don't necessarily like make sense with one another, but it's all like a story I'm trying to tell.
You're writing the story too?
Mm-hmm.
That's
Yeah.
cool.
I already wrote it. It's
Yeah.
actually badass. I really like it.
Yeah.
When's it gonna come out, or when's the?
So basically, right now I'm in this like pause moment because I have an editor, and I don't know if you know how the publishing works, but or the publishing world works. But basically, you're supposed to get an agent who finds you an editor. But I have an editor, but just to protect like my rights with the Chucho, because that's what I do for a living, I do want an agent. So even though I have the editor, I don't have the agent. So I'm like in the process of looking for the agent.
So the legalities first, which is the smart way to do things.
Mm-hmm.
I've seen them done really big. So what's the biggest you've ever painted him, or he's ever appeared?
Probably like 3-4 stories. I'm gonna start my biggest one, which is 5 stories in Boyle Heights.
What?
Yeah.
How tall is 5 stories?
Or maybe it's either 4 or 5, but I believe it's 5. But I'm not gonna do like the bottom level because it's like,
technicalities.
Yeah.
Wait. So how a story is what, like 12 feet? Not 10 feet?
It's actually, I think it's like 10.
And how many stories?
4.
Damn.
Yeah.
And so when you take on a project like of that magnitude, do you do it primarily yourself?
Yeah. Mm.
Yeah, that's nuts.
That's nuts, right?
Yeah.
So do you document this stuff?
Yeah, I'm going to get this documented for sure. My homegirl in Crypt is going to film everything. So
going back to, so you're obviously a Latina artist. Where you have not just Mexican roots, right?
Yeah, I'm Mexican and Puerto Rican.
Boricua.
Mm-hmm.
So who would you say, and this, I don't know if this is a good question or not, or a trick question, or, as far as being a Latina, Chicana artist, or whatever you want to call yourself, or I don't know what term you like, who's as active as you are?
Oh, that's an interesting question. I mean, there's a lot of women killing it.
Yeah, but like really to that scale, or being out there as much. I mean, that's I don't know if it's a fair question or a good question, but it's, if I'd like to know, like, I'd like to, just for my personal knowledge, like, because people always, like, when I do, put shows together, curate shows, or, the question that I asked you earlier in the week, is people ask me, like, they want to find Latina artists or muralists or street artists or people just because that's the way things are put together. They want to have that representation. So I know of other artists that do paintings, like some amazing Latina painters, car painters, muralists, airbrushers, but that do large scale murals by themselves or solely like that.
I mean, to be honest, I don't know if I could answer that question. There's a lot of women out there doing amazing things right now. But I'm like so tunnel vision that I'm just like focused on what I'm doing, to be honest. So I've just been like kind of just stuck in my.
That's a good answer. That's a humble, good answer. Because if because it was sincere. It was a real question, like, because I'd like to like look into it and know, because there's things that do come up and people want to know, or they want to see that sort of, So how many times do you think you've painted them?
Chucho?
Uh-huh.
Oh my God, I don't know.
Okay, so we'll get away from Chucho, because I live in Escondido, and not too long ago I was driving down Escondido Boulevard, and there's a place there called Frida's. And I look and I'm like, that's a badass mural. Like, who did that? And you did that too. Like,
I have like a partnership with them because they hired me to do that one. And then since then they've expanded and now they have like 6 locations and they're just getting more and more.
Place is good. It's really good.
It's good. Yeah. So I've been painting for them I think I did my 6th one like last week, and they just keep getting more and more.
But
and more.
she hangs with the best of them, dog. Like, don't she gets down. Like you seen the mural?
Yeah.
So, but you do all types of work, right? Chucho's just kind of like.
Yeah, it's like I mean, honestly, I really love like portrait work and realism, but I guess when I got into this game, I was like, how am I going to stand out? And I was like, I'm not like the best portrait painter, and I was like, but I can like create my own world and be the best at it because no one's going to do it, you know? And so that was like the strategy going into it.
So when they give you free realm, you incorporate Chucho somewhere.
Yeah, always.
And then
I always try to.
That's your boy.
Yeah, for sure.
What about like overseas? Because you've done different countries like Colombia or Puerto Rico. Well, Puerto Rico's not a country, but you know, you've gone other places. Do they request for you to do Chucho, or is it like open canvas?
So, I mean, I've definitely traveled to places where it was just like a fun vacation, but I can't really take a vacation. Like I always have to paint something. So I always like reach out to locals and make it work. But I've definitely been flown to, I think the craziest place was Australia.
Oh,
to
nice.
paint
It's a long ass flight.
Is it hard painting upside down? That was a dad joke, I guess, right?
Oh my gosh.
What city did you go to?
It was Melbourne.
Melbourne's dope, right?
Mm-hmm.
Shout out mayonnaise. You know mayonnaise?
Yeah. Is that where it's from?
Oh, no, mayonnaise, the artist.
Oh,
the guy showed you downstairs. Like
okay,
he's kind of one of the street art mayors of Melbourne.
Okay.
Old Melbourne, like the old part of Melbourne. Did you go there? Like it's a lot of graffiti, street art.
I probably did. This was a few years ago.
Kind of feels like Europe a little bit. Wow. So where else have you painted?
I painted in Colombia, Japan, Mexico, and then what else? I feel like I have such a terrible memory when people ask me things like this. So I don't know. I think those are the coolest ones I can think of right now.
How'd you like Japan?
I love Japan. I want to go back. Honestly, I think I went like a week and I was like, that was not long enough. I should have stayed longer.
It's never, ever long enough in Tokyo or in Japan. Like every time like I get there and I'm already counting the days. I gotta go in 6 days already.
I know.
You're like, or be there for even if you're there a couple of weeks, like damn, I gotta leave tomorrow. Like you can't enjoy
it because you're depressed so you have to leave.
Yeah, it's like you don't want to leave. Those are like, and I've probably said this on the podcast before, there's 2 cities where I really could live and be comfortable. And one is in Tokyo. Like I'm very,
think so too, for me.
Very comfortable in Tokyo, primarily Shibuya. That's my neighborhood. I'll claim that shit. And then in Amsterdam, like I love Amsterdam and there's good people there and I know my way around both those cities really well. But yeah, just everything about Tokyo is like the shit.
I agree. It's like a whole new world. I can't believe how clean it is. That was like the craziest part to me.
It's cool. So, you started doing art in, would you say high school?
I mean, I guess I started to take it a little more serious then. But I mean, I started doing it professionally. I think it's been like almost 9 years, which is crazy because I always feel like I'm a newbie to the game, but I'm not anymore.
I would. So how was that? You kind of touched on it earlier, like having what may have appeared in the beginning as a disadvantage or being a female in the scene, which is, I don't, like I asked the question earlier, like who else is there? And if anybody's listening to this podcast, DM me, let me know, like show me, because I definitely, I'm curious and I'd like to know like what other Latina muralists, real busy street artists are there. Back in the day, there was Tribe was doing a bunch of graffiti back. She was really well known in LA, but she was mostly doing letters and just out there doing her thing. And then obviously back in the 70s, I believe there was Lady Pink from New York. There was still, she still does paintings and canvases and things like that. But what was that like? And just developing as a professional muralist artist, like from high school until now?
Well, I think like I So I had my daughter, and I was kind of like in this weird place of like, okay, fuck, like shit just got real. I have to make it work.
Mm-hmm.
And that's when I was like, I took the leap, and I was like, I'm gonna move to LA, and I'm gonna be a full-time artist. And I at first I was teaching and driving for Lyft, the cab company.
What were
and
you
then,
teaching?
Like, art.
Oh, nice.
Mm-hmm. And so I just kind of, I had actually, so like before I had my daughter, I had been like in a really shitty place in my life, and I was like dealing with addiction and all this stuff, and she's the one that got me out of it. Mm-hmm. And so I was like in this like very like weird place where I was like, I wanted to finally like do things the way I wanted to do them and live my life the way I wanted to, and just kind of I just had like a big fire under me. And so I made that move to LA, and then I just did the whole I had no idea where to start. I didn't have any connections. I didn't know anybody. But I did the whole like door-to-door salesman pitch, and that's kind of how I started.
What do you mean? How was that? Like door to door?
So basically, I got like my practice in because there was a place here in San Diego, which I'm sure maybe you've heard of it, Writer's Block.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah. So Writer's Block, I used to go all the time, and I would paint. I would go there every single day, and then I would take a picture of my pieces. And so that's how I built my portfolio. And then when I moved to LA, I just would walk door to door and be like, hey, this is my portfolio. These are other businesses I've painted for, even though it wasn't, you know? And then that's how I started getting like little jobs. And then that's when I finally had the confidence to quit my teaching job, because I started to get some momentum.
And was this prior to the big social media boom?
No, it was, well, yeah, I mean, I wasn't doing very well on social media at all, but I was definitely, I've always, since I started my art journey, I've always documented it because it's just felt like natural to me, I guess. But I wasn't getting much work on social media at all. Yeah. I wasn't getting really much work at all, but I was just like, I'm going to do this. I'm going to figure it out. And I knew that murals was the way. I was like, how am I going to make this a full-time career? And that's why I decided to like teach myself how to spray paint. And I did the door.
Prior to that, what were you using?
Acrylic. Yeah. I was mainly an acrylic person. And then I always was fascinated with spray paint. I always loved it, but I just like, I never like used it like the way I use it now, you know? So I was like, it was definitely a big shift for me, but that was the best decision I ever made. And doing the salesman door-to-door thing, which is so funny for me because I'm such an introvert that it was painful to like walk around and get all these doors slammed in my face and keep getting no's. And then eventually, I think that was like the best thing I ever did for myself though, because all those no's and all those like door slams like gave me like a weird confidence where I was like, you know what, like it doesn't matter because all of those no's like led to that yes, you know? And so it just became part of the game for me. And I stopped caring about rejection so much. And I think that was an important piece.
That's badass. Yeah. I think the hustle's like just to inspire people, just that story right there, like that the hustle is real. Like you really were out there knocking on doors, showing people your portfolio.
Did you document that on your Instagram as well, or is that before?
No, I didn't document that process. I documented me like actually once I got the wall and painted it, but that would have been cool.
Yeah, because a lot of people see the end product. They don't see the sacrifice that went into getting there.
That's a good point.
That's hella cool. That's respect for that. That's super cool. Like just people think that the shit just falls in your lap and that it's easy. And in so many things, like so many, including everybody, myself, like what you did, they don't understand how much work and struggle and rejection and falling on our faces and making it look good, you know, and getting back up and really, you know, just moving forward. But I would imagine besides that, it was like you had your daughter. Like she was probably motivation and inspiration to keep going.
Yeah, she's been like my greatest source of inspiration and probably part of the reason why I created like the Chucho world, which is like obviously kid friendly. But yeah, I mean, she kind of like at that moment I was like, you know what, like if I don't do this and get this right, I'm never going to do this. Like, I'm going to end up getting a regular job and I'm going to get stuck and I'm going to hate myself later in life because I know I never followed through with my passion.
Yeah.
So that's why I felt like this immense amount of pressure to make it work. And so I did.
That's badass.
That's a good mindset to have early on because, we get comfortable in our job and then we lose out on, what our passion is and what our pleasures are.
I want to hear Chucho's story. I want to read the book. The book already. Like, you're pretty excited about the story?
I'm excited about it because it's been like, so the whole thing behind my characters is a mental health aspect because it was such a big part of my story. I had such horrible depression, anxiety growing up. And so like I talk about that, but in like a kid kind of friendly way. But I just feel like it's a powerful story.
The story, so it's for kids and adults then?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Which I think is kind of the part where it's been hard to get an agent because they think it's like a little too dark. But I'm like, the greatest stories are all a little dark.
For sure.
So,
like, look at Harry Potter.
Mm-hmm.
Like, there's so many stories that go that way. Or even Where the Wild Things Are. And then the other book that you just mentioned, what was it?
I don't remember.
But all fairy tales like have a dark meaning from their original story.
The original like ones that are like staples, but like if you look at the new age books, because I go to the bookstore a lot, they're very like different. Like it's very like cutesy and soft and everybody wins and the days are beautiful, rainbows all the time.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So I could see why it's like a little different, but I'm not gonna like compromise. I'm gonna keep my story the way I want. I mean, there's things I'll compromise for sure, but I'm not gonna change the direction.
Do you have it all drawn already?
No, not all drawn, but the story's ready, and I have like sample illustrations.
So you can draw, obviously, acrylics, spray paint.
I do a little bit like, I mean, I've dabbled in oil, but it's not like, it's honestly something I really want to revisit because it was like something I did a long time ago.
I have a connect for you on the oil. Like a friend of mine, Alan Padilla, they do classes in, they have a really like a master that they brought a couple weeks ago. Sorry, but I forgot his name. Carlos Torres, all those guys, they do a lot of stuff in oils. I know OG Abel's starting to do some stuff in oils, but I'll connect you with Alan and them because they do some really cool casual classes.
Okay, cool. Yeah, no, I would love that. It's
in San Pedro, and the stuff that I've been seeing that's coming out of these, and they're really, really cool people. But the guy who's teaching the classes is amazing. Like that's super cool. So beyond the books, what else would you like to pursue with your art?
So I definitely want to do the books, and then like I have a whole plan that's like totally probably unrealistic.
Never.
But I have like a book behind all of that. But aside from that, I really want
a book behind the books.
I want a book to turn into a series, to turn into a movie, that whole, You know
what? I tell this to my kids and I tell this to people all the time, and it's true. Mm-hmm. The next shit has to come from somewhere. Mm-hmm. There's always the next shit, the new shit, the fresh shit, because the old stuff it goes away, and it'll remain classic, or it can grow but
that's a good point.
It's true. Like people, and especially you, I think, and I'm gonna go ahead and call it an advantage that you have too as a Latina artist, and people. I think it's about growing the network and finding the people that are going to pay attention or listen to this podcast, or going to look at your work and become curious, and to continue to get these jobs where people are going to go, who is that? That's a chick did that? Like people are going to go like, and ask the questions that we ask. And then it takes one person. It takes just that one person that'll go, oh, I know such and such from such and such, and they're looking for something. Or, for me, it's like, or not for me, but just in general, just getting the attention of that one person that has the influence. Because I know, just because of the people that I know in the industry, or in Hollywood, for example, there's a handful running shit. Like if you can get into that handful, and you probably just could imagine who that handful is. And I'll tell you, one of them's like Eva Longoria, like to get her attention, which isn't impossible for you, I don't think, or for a lot of people. And to get not just I'm just using her as an example, but there's other people. But then again, there's going to be the next people that are going to become a part of that group. And the next people that become a part of that group may be somebody that you know, or somebody that, you know, it's I think a lot of these dreams that you have can really become a reality. Is you just got to stick to it. And
it's like Chris, right? Chris Estrada.
Yep.
This fool. He was doing his thing, and Fred Armisen recognized it, Michael Imperioli, and then he got to show this fool.
Yeah.
Because he was just, you know, doing what he does, and somebody recognized it.
Right. And you know, I know those people listen to this podcast. Like, I know that they pay attention, and Chris has become a good friend, and Frankie Quinones are good friends. And there's a lot of people in the industry that are friends. And, you know, you're going to go to some of these events that we talked about earlier. And I think it's just people knowing you, knowing your work, doing shows, becoming a part of a network of people where, you know, for the same reason that I reached out to you earlier or last week or whatever it was, I'm like, oh yeah. And then if that happens, then that's something that can turn into something else. It's kind of like, and I don't know if this is a corny comparison, but I think for me, it's been kind of a real thing. And I know for a lot of people, it's been a real thing and the reason I say it could be, people could take it as corny, is Oprah did that thing called The Secret, which is basically, you just keep manifesting things. You just,
I agree.
You just,
I mean, I believe in that.
Yeah, it happens, right? Like it's happened to me a shit ton of times, and you can call it manifestation. I'll call it a blessing and manifestation, or a cross between the two, because that's just the way that I believe things happen.
No, I totally agree with that.
And you know, you have these visions. Everything starts from a thought, and then you just kind of start, either intentionally, consciously, or subconsciously, you start moving in that direction, and things start happening. And you know, for me, it's like I always wanted to do, for example, like a museum show. Like I had done little shows and curated different shows all over the world, like just small shows. And I always had this idea that I wanted to do a museum show. But museums, me being who I am, and people looking at, and this is the truth, like, you know, oh, that what they do is too street, too hard, too Chicano, and that's the way we're looked at in streetwear sometimes too. Or, but there was a gentleman that came into my life, Jim Dashant, who we became great friends, and just through the network and dialogue and friendships, we were able to make it happen. And you know, it grew into other things in the book and you know, different projects. So it's just making moves in the right direction. And for you, I think it was having the guts to knock on those doors, you know?
Yeah, I think it started there, right?
Yeah.
Like that kind of grit and the grind to get there. And then it's just showing up every day. You show up every day, do what you do, and then, you know, things
and learning
accumulate.
Those lessons that you were saying, like how to handle rejection and how to handle, you know, people saying, I don't like it. Or just, you know, whatever it was, whatever reason they had to say no, is just learning how to just.
Do you remember your first yes from your door to door?
Yeah.
What was the name of the place?
Dang, I don't remember the name of the place, but it's actually a really funny story, because he said yes, I could paint it, but he was like, but I don't have any money. He's like, but I could fix your phone screen because I see it's cracked. And I was like, all right, like, can you pay for the paint? And we made a deal. And I was hyped on it because I was like, you know what? Like, that's cool. I have this mural like on this like street. It was in Boyle Heights. And I did it. And then halfway through, like the next day I came to finish up, and he was like, hey, you can't finish. And I was like, why? And he's like, the girl at the salon next door hates it. She thinks he's so ugly, the Chucho. And I was like, oh, like, like that sucks.
How can they say he's ugly?
Well, he looked different then.
Oh, okay.
He was a little more like creepy and vicious, you know? But then the cool thing was that he told me, he's like, but you know what? I have this other wall right on the other side of the building and she has no say in that. So like, if you're down, you could do that wall. And I said, okay. So then for years, I think it was like maybe like a year or two, they finally painted over it. But for years there was like one Chucho on one side of the building that was unfinished, and then the finished one, she never buffed it. So like it was just there. So she had two, like on both sides of the building.
So it was worse for her.
It was worse for her. Yeah. So, but
and did he fix your phone screen?
He did. Yeah, he fixed my phone screen. So that was one of my first yeses.
So that was it. That was the yes was like it wasn't real monetary.
Yeah, anyway. No.
Mm-mm. Do you manage all your own stuff?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, so like at first, like it was, I just wanted to paint like on everything, and I was like, I need to get my portfolio, and so like I agreed to do stuff like that, liquor stores, like whatever I could get. But obviously, I'd always like try to hustle and get like money out of it, especially when I quit my job. That's when I was like, I need to make money off of this. So, but there was definitely a lot of stuff I did that was just because I wanted to get my name out there, you know?
And even now, because I know you've painted some pretty big, high profile jobs. So you manage all your own.
Yeah, I mean, I finally have an assistant, which she helps me like kind of with the email thing and talking to people, and I do a lot of applications, and so she kind of helps me with that. But mostly it's just me. Mostly.
It's not easy, huh?
It's hard. It's so much work. I feel like I wear like 20 hats. It's like, and I never would have thought that being a muralist, I'd have to be like such a businessman and such a like always talking and like doing interviews like this and stuff like that. I never thought that was going to come with it, but I'm really glad it did, because it's like broken me out of my shell. Like I mentioned, like I'm such an introvert. Like I've always been like such a shy girl, and it's really kind of just forced me to get out of that box, and I think I needed that. So
there's probably, I mean, besides the book projects that you're talking about, the Chucho projects, I think there's a whole other story there, like your story. Like what you're telling us is really interesting too. Like I could imagine some of the stuff you've experienced, because you've painted, like you said, you painted in Boyle Heights, you've painted in Tokyo, and you're a female. Like I could imagine some of the shit that you've experienced painting.
For sure.
Right.
Definitely had some crazy experiences.
Right. What would you think was, if you want to share like something crazy that happened while you were working on one of your pieces?
I mean, luckily, like, nothing like insane.
Do you pack?
Like what?
Do you pack?
No, well, no, because I feel like I have a spray can, so like I'm solid.
A lighter and a spray
can.
Yeah, a lighter and a spray can.
But I've definitely, I mean, I think like the typical thing that happens pretty often is like guys be like, hey, let me get one of those cans. And I'm like, oh, well, sorry, I need them. I'm using them.
Yeah.
And they're like, you're not going to use all that. And then I swear it's like the same conversation every time. And I'm like, yeah, because actually I do this for a living, so I'm going to need it for the next one. And they're like, come on, you can just give me like your scraps. I'll be back. I'll come back. And then I've had guys like actually try to steal my paint, like while I'm like not looking, but it's never happened. Like no one's ever gotten away with it, or at least if they did, I don't know about it.
That's crazy. So, but I mean, even to go out there and just paint it yourself and be by yourself. And
I have like a stalker too, and I've had like just people hang around. So what happens a lot too is I notice, like, depending on the neighborhood I paint in, but I become a lot of people's like therapists. Like they know that I'm there and that I can't leave. And so they take advantage of that. And so they hang out and they talk to me. I've had guys like cry, drinking beers, talking about their breakups.
Oh,
and
shit.
Like, I've just had like so many people just like share like some vulnerable things with me just because I'm
post
like
up a lawn
there.
chair and shit and just talk.
Yeah.
Do you prefer talking to people while you paint?
No, I'm like I always have my headphones on, and I always like, I make it pretty obvious. Yeah, I make it pretty obvious. Like I don't want to talk to people. I don't mind like if I'm taking a break, but if I'm painting, I'm working, and like I don't think people kind of correlate the two. That like because I'm painting, I must be having fun, but it's like no, I'm actually working, and I need to think, you know. So it's kind of hard for me to just like have a full blown conversation. So I really like to have like my space with my headphones. But obviously with public art, like that's you don't get that all the time.
And it's difficult to I keep, for me, I love street art. I love seeing, that's what pretty much first drew my attention to art was, graffiti and Chicano art and street art and, everything that's on the street. But now I really love to see people in the galleries, in the museums, which is difficult to find. Like it's difficult to find those museums or those institutions that will allow people to show and not sell, or even to show and sell. And it's, getting them to respond to, emails or phone calls. Like even that's where Jim came in, like, cause he's, he's got that, I always say those fancy letters before and after his names as a professor, a PhD and all that type of stuff. But, it helps someone's career so much to be shown in galleries and be shown in museums. Have you had much of that opportunity?
Yeah, I mean, I've shown a lot. I did like a solo show at Think Space. I don't know if you're familiar with that
I've
gallery.
Heard of it.
They're pretty like pretty like,
where is
established.
That?
Dang.
I have heard of it.
I'm like so bad with
Is it in San Diego?
No, it's LA.
I've heard of it.
West something?
Westwood?
West
Lake?
LA? West something? Everyone's in LA is gonna hate me right now.
That's right.
But I don't know the neighborhood off the top. But I did a solo show for them. But to be honest, like for me personally, doing like gallery shows, it just like takes up so much of my time and energy to make like a small piece. For me, I don't know necessarily what it is, but it takes me a lot longer than it does for me to paint a giant mural. Maybe because I like just get like too into the tightness of the details.
And that's it.
Yeah, because I have a brush and I can do that. With a can, it's like you're kind of more limited. So I don't know. For me, I prefer painting murals. But I also realize that murals are temporary. So with that in mind, I'm like I try to do as many pieces, like paintings.
So you also still paint for fun?
Yeah, I'll always paint for fun.
Yeah?
Yeah. I mean, it's like, is it for fun though? At this point, it's like, it is and it isn't, because it's still like aligned with what I'm doing. If I was to paint for fun, like for real, it would be like some totally out of the box stuff that you would never expect me to paint.
I think that's cool.
Yeah.
I think you should do that. I think that's what I'm going to use a strange example. I don't know if it's a strange example or not, but some of my favorite work that I've seen Retina do is Brimstone. And it's completely unlike
different.
His. Are you familiar with his Brimstone characters?
No, I'm not.
They're far out. Okay. They're so abstract and they're super far out, but you could tell he has so much fun doing it that it's different. It's fun. I think people would love that. I think just to see it that angle where you're completely painting for fun and for yourself and not really caring, or to do it. I always have a problem with this word, anonymously. Like
that's a good point.
Like people don't know who painted that.
Yeah, that's
and
true.
then you're just kind of like, oh.
See, like for me, like my plan is just to surprise people and like keep growing my little world and like just making these like weird characters where I get to be that, like just do some weird shit, So like that's kind of what I plan.
That's cool.
Do. Yeah.
Persway has his character. Have you guys ever painted together?
Not like on a collab piece, but we've painted right next to each other.
It would be cool to have a bunny kitty and Chucho hang out. Right. Like, cause Dave has his world. Like Persway has his world with Bunny Kitty, and I forgot the gorilla's name. Damn it. He does this really cool gorilla. Yeah,
he has like kids books. I've read them. So like, and I'm failing on the names, but I know exactly the one you're talking about.
And then he has kind of the same the stuffed animals and stuff like that. I think, did I see some of your stuffed animals at the La Jolla Museum of Contemporary Art?
Yes.
Right?
They have them there.
That's cool that you're able to even get in there and manage to do that. Have you shown there?
No, that's like, hopefully they invite me to do that, but I have not shown there.
I want to do a show there.
Yeah.
See, Jim and I are going to see if we could squeeze in there somehow. Right. That's hella cool. So, books.
I want to get more into like sculptural stuff too.
Have you done that before?
I've done it like on like smaller. I think like the biggest one I did was probably like a foot high, but I really want to I want to learn how to do that because it's just, I mean, interestingly enough, I think sculptures are like way more exciting to me than painting is. It's like I like looking at sculptures more than I like looking at paintings.
Really?
Yeah.
I really like looking at sculpture too. Like, not too long ago, I went to the Vatican and looking at the sculptures there, like the original Pieta and all the sculptures from Bernini, the bridge, and yeah, it's super, super dope. And then from that, you could do your toy.
Yeah.
Like it would be like a textured toy, right? Like a
vinyl. I have one.
Like a vinyl.
I have like vinyls of all my characters, but like I released one a long time ago, and then I'm actually like getting the little vinyls because I'm making a board game. What? And so they're all like little pieces.
You're making a board game now?
Yeah. I've been making it for like 3 years.
Is it a one-off or you're going to produce them?
I'm going to produce them.
No shit.
But like, so I started this game 3 years ago, and then the manufacturing was taking so long that by that time I was like, you know what? Like I changed my idea for the box. Like I don't like it anymore. So like it's been like a process, but it's called Dulceland. It's basically a ripoff of Candyland, but it's all like Mexican candy. So.
And who are the characters?
It's all my characters. Yeah. So basically, if you know about Candyland, there's like a whole cult like following, and all of the characters are like, they like have like this meaning. And so I try to keep the characters like original to like the storyline that's already there, but they all, that was like the hardest part, like to be able to translate that into like a Mexican world and into like the Mexican candy. And the reason why I'm like so like into this Dulceland and the Mexican candy thing is because I grew up, my grandma owned a carniceria, and she would in Logan, actually, the butcher block. I don't know if you know.
Yeah, I know where that is.
Yeah.
So they still own it?
Yeah.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
I go in there to buy cachete. Like when I make like barbacoa. Yeah.
So that was like our like cool, exciting time when we got to go visit her and get all the dulces. And like, that's like, those are my favorite childhood memories. Like just loading up on the Mexican candy. Cause like you couldn't really get it like how you can get it in other places now. But yeah, so I've always been like, so it's like so nostalgic to me. So, and that game too. So
is it a bilingual game?
Yes, actually I did get it translated. Mm-hmm.
So, but it's English and Spanish because of the name. Mm-hmm. Wow, that's cool. So you're busy.
There's all kinds of stuff.
Yeah,
coming out of this.
So, inspiration. Who and what artists or where do you draw the majority of your, like even then and now, like who really inspires you and who are some of your favorite artists?
That's a interesting question. I feel like I get that a lot, and I always get like stumped answering it because I am just like in such a big community of artists that it's hard to like narrow down and pick my favorite. But I could answer that from like the beginning, like back in the day. And it's totally weird and random. And I don't even know if you're going to know who it is, but my biggest inspiration was Charles Bragg. Do you know who that is?
I've heard of it.
He's like he was San Francisco guy, and he did like all these crazy like anti-war illustrations, and just I don't know
Bragg.
Yeah. It's like totally random that he's one of my inspirations, but he is. And I discovered him because at a thrift store I found one of his prints, and I was like, what is this? And then I fell in love. And I love.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
That kind of stuff, right?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that's cool. Oh, what a cool style.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, right? I love him. He's so cool to me.
You know who used to do really cool characters too is Barry McGee. twist. Yeah. So who else? That was in the beginning?
That was in the beginning. But I mean, I don't know. Like I always feel like weird saying.
Okay,
like,
here's
names.
then we're gonna. No, I find myself in that position all the time, but it's I just say it like because it's like if someone said, well, we're gonna rephrase this. So someone says, okay, you could get a painting from any artist that you want. They're gonna give you a painting. They're gonna give you a big ass like a 4x8 for your pad, and it's.
Dang, that's too hard. I don't know. I mean, I really like I'm very inspired by like Chicano art and also by Japanese art too. Like I love the kawaii, like all so I have this idea, which I have so many ideas, but I have this idea to create like my own cafe, but like it's going to be based on like Japanese, like not like, you know how everything's like cute, like everything is like curated, it's an art piece. And so I want to create like my own little cafe. And I've actually been talking this idea out with the owners of Frida's Tacos, and they're actually like on board and are like, yeah, let's do it. But like I'm just too busy right now, so I'm like, ugh, I don't know if I could take that on right now. But essentially like make like all these little Chucho pastries, but that are like very cute, like art pieces, but have it all like Mexican flavors instead of.
It's kind of like the way they do those. Actually, a guy, Andy Nguyen, owns this place in the Irvine Spectrum. It's a Hello Kitty cafe.
I know. I love Hello Kitty cafe. I love Hello Kitty. Hello Kitty is like definitely up there for me.
But the pastries are really good. Like they're really well done. They're donuts, right? They're those little donuts.
Yeah, I've taken my daughter a few times.
Yeah, right. And it's just a little tiny hole in the wall spot. But something like that's actually kind of cool. But I think also there's a market for it if it's done.
I think so too.
If it's done right, especially in Southern California or, where there's a lot of Latinos or Texas or Arizona.
I agree. Yeah, I think there's a lot that could be done. And I think about it a lot. I'm like, okay, well, eventually like my path of like painting these giant walls is going to fade away because I'm going to be like old and probably be like super fucked up. So I think about like what's the next step, and I definitely think that would be my move. But do you like how I just totally avoided your question?
No, yeah, that was pretty cool. That was good. But okay, so back to the question. No, you don't have to. But yeah, it is tough. I have like, I guess for me, I could answer today, and my answer might change tomorrow. I think it depends on my mood. Who is my favorite, and it depends on the style and things like that. Like I definitely, and I think I'm a little bit biased too, probably as you are, just because they're associates or friends or people that you work alongside. Especially a lot of these guys and artists that I've seen grow. What do you listen to when you paint?
It depends on my mood. If I need like a little like to pump myself up, I'll listen to like hip hop, but I like to listen to instrumental, and I listen to a lot of podcasts, which is actually probably the thing I go towards the most. And it's usually like the opposite of what you think I listen to. I listen to a lot of like crime podcasts.
Oh, true crime?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I actually like tried to quit because I felt like it was a toxic habit, but I always keep going back there.
Yeah.
So.
I find myself, I went back into like more trip hop stuff, lo-fi type stuff.
Yeah, lo-fi is like my go-to.
But Johnny knows my recent obsession is country music.
Oh yeah?
Yeah, it's like I'm not a big fan of some of the new hip hop. Because I found
like
myself
country,
for
like
years,
romantic
country? Kind of like I really like Coulter Wall and Charlie Crockett and the Red Clay Strays and Zach Bryan.
It's more like rock country kind of.
Okay.
Like I don't know.
Yeah, some of it's kind of rocky country. There's a lot of really good Sturgill Simpson and Tyler Childers or how
Tyler Childers.
Yeah, like I just like the content and what they talk about, and I go hunting. I go to like out in the ranches like once a year, and my family's from South Texas. So, but I just got tired of listening to the same. I'm not there's anything wrong with that. I love hip hop, and I love all my old school hip hop, and I love the hip hop from the the 90s, 2000, 2010, like all the way. But then it got to a point where like, I can't do this new shit. And I'm kind of like, I want something new. Like I always want something new and exciting. And I like what they talk about in the content. And to be really honest, I like that the country music is just as masculine and hardcore as some of the hip hop shit. Like they're talking about some of the same shit. Like you listen to what some of these guys are talking about. It's like, whoa, it's a lot of the same stuff. And, but yes.
Yeah, no, I find myself like getting bored too and always switching it up. Like I listen to like a lot, like I'm a lot of different kinds, but those are just my go-tos.
Yeah. Like instrumental stuff, even like I went back to all the Portishead type stuff and then the trip hop and like, what do they call it now? Lo-fi type stuff. But yeah, just something new. And I kind of went there. So, what about people that where's the best place for people to see your work and to, online or your IG, or that want to buy something?
So my IG is Mr. B Baby, and then my website is Mr. B Baby Art. I don't know if that's what you're asking, but you could just go to my website, and I have a few things on there, nothing like crazy. But if you're really interested, you can just reach out to me via email, which is on my Instagram page.
Do you have the stuffed animals on the site?
I don't. They always like. So you could actually get the stuffed animal at the museum, like you mentioned. Yeah. It was a special collaboration, so it actually has like the museum name like embroidered on the foot. But right now they're sold out. And my dolls always sell out like when I put them out, but there's still some at the museum. So if anyone's like interested.
What about prints and stuff like that? Do you do prints?
No, you know what? Like it's something that I should do, but I don't. I just, like I said, I feel like I wear so many hats that I don't. But that's like one thing I really want to focus on, which is kind of my reasoning for getting an assistant, is more of like my online merch sales and stuff, because there's just so much I could be doing that I'm not. And I really want to like get into stationery. Why? Not because of the money, but just because I like.
No, because you need to find some fucking cool birthday cards and Christmas cards and stuff like that. Like you go to Target, or that's where I always buy my cards that I gotta buy. I hate buying them most of the time, and you get there and everything's corny or the artwork's whatever. Or like
that's true.
You just can't find anything. Once in a while you'll find a cool funny one, or you'll find something that we can relate to, but that's really good. I think there's a big market there for cool greeting cards or Christmas cards or birthday cards or whatever it is. I think Abel did some.
There's a lot I can do. That's what's cool about being an artist. I feel like it's endless. Like you could literally just think of anything and make it.
Do you work in Photoshop and Illustrator too?
I not typically, but I know how to use the programs. Yeah.
Dude, I was like, I looked, yesterday or today I looked through your IG and I'm like, damn, she's busy. Like you stay crazy busy.
Yeah, I try to stay busy.
But you said you were taking a little break right now?
Yeah, like, I mean, it's like sort of a break. I'm still like working on like content. I'm doing this video tomorrow, but it's like a no paint break. So even though I probably should be painting, because I have a painting in my car I have to finish, but
it's like a conscious effort. I'm not going to paint.
I'm trying not to. I don't know if this is going to last a week.
It'll probably last withdrawals.
Yeah, honestly, I feel like I am like addicted to it. I don't even know if it's an addiction. I just feel like it's like, I feel like the reason I've been able to be successful is that my art has always been an escape for me, and I've always been like running away from something. And so like I just get like, it just, I just keep running with my art, and it helps me from like just like obsessing over things I probably shouldn't.
It's therapeutic.
So, exactly.
I think that's a lot of artists do that for therapy. But is there anything that you want to say, or any shout outs or anything?
I mean, thank you for having me on the show.
Thanks for making the time. You're welcome. I'm happy to have you, and welcome. Like I said, before we turn on the mics, well, I think Johnny and I are really proud of just the guest list that we've been able to put together. we're not consistent. But we're not consistent for a reason, just because we try to make sure that we deliver interesting content and have, basically, for lack of a better word, and I know people overuse this word, but curate what we do. So it's interesting. Good. And once people get to our podcast or they discover the podcast, they'll look at it and go like, oh shit, like, look, I can go from this guy to this. And thank you for being our first female guest.
I'm honored.
And that wasn't, and that wasn't, that's, it is what it is, just to be completely honest. And we need to have more female guests. And, thank you for making the time and coming today. And I wish you nothing but the best. And I'm positive that you're just going to continue to grow and all these things that you're thinking are going to become a reality. I think it's really cool, because Chucho's a badass. Like, I'm a fan.
Yeah.
It's super cool.
When the movie comes out, let us know. We'll be on the red carpet.
Yeah.
That's right. Definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Okay, I'll make a deal with you. If the movie comes out, if there's ever a movie, I'll wear the suit.
Okay.
There you
go.
All right, cool.
I promise. I could be like a old ass man, like 80 years old, but fuck it, I'm gonna wear the suit, be hot as hell.
It's better you than me, because imagine how hot it is in there and how much I would sweat.
So hopefully the movie premieres in the winter. Is there like
in the winter?
Can you fit a straw in there somewhere?
What do you mean,
like
a
little straw, so I could have a drink?
There's actually a fan.
Oh, really?
And yeah, you can, because the mouth is open.
Yeah.
So you could drink.
Yeah. Get a little. Yeah. Do something like that would be hella cool. I still think he should do more parties.
He actually did a party last week. He does party appearances, but I don't do, like, it's usually like my friends or something, like I'm involved with, like a job that asked me to do it, but I don't do like just like free party rentals or anything, or like open to the public, I should say. But I think I'm going to redesign the suit and like think about that as like a business side hustle.
I think that's what, especially once the book comes out, like you can get different characters. But I imagine little kids like pulling at the fur and stuff like that. But thank you so much for being here, Mr. B Baby, Lower Left Podcast, Johnny Be Good.
Yeah,
17th.
I'm rusty. Yeah, it's been a while. Yeah. But I wasn't ready for that.
Yeah, but everybody, hope you're enjoying your summer.